The first thing Mercer remembered was the smell, not smoke, not dirt, but blood. It clung to everything, the canvas of his uniform, the straps of his satchel, even the air he breathed. War had a scent, and he'd learned it by heart. The trenches were quiet that morning, too quiet. The stillness before a storm. A thin fog crawled along the floor, brushing against Mercer's boots like a ghost. He tightened the bandage around a soldier's arm, whispering a prayer under his breath. The man was barely 19, freckles still visible beneath the grime. "Keep pressure on it," Mercer said softly. The boy nodded weakly. "Am I gonna lose it?" Mercer forced a smile. "Not if I can help it." He lied easily now. Hope was a currency medics had to counterfeit. A whistle echoed down the trench, the signal. Every man froze. Boots shifted. Fingers found triggers. Someone muttered a curse. "Here we go," Sergeant Doyle grunted, checking his rifle. Mercer slung his satchel over his shoulder. "I'll stay close." "You get hit, you yell." Doyle cracked a grin. "Don't plan on it." Then the world exploded. A shell landed 50 yards ahead, throwing mud and men skyward. The roar swallowed every sound, shaking the air itself. Mercer hit the ground hard, his helmet clattering away. When he looked up, the trench had vanished into smoke. He scrambled forward, ducking through splintered boards and burning canvas. Screams echoed somewhere to his right. "Medic! Medic!" He ran toward the voice, heart pounding. Private Lowe was there, or what was left of him. His chest was torn open, breath wet and shallow. Mercer dropped beside him, ripping open his satchel. "Hold still. You're gonna be all right, Lowe." But as he said it, Lowe's eyes rolled back. Mercer froze. His fingers trembled. He pressed 2 fingers to the boy's throat. "Nothing." "God," he whispered. "No." The ground shook again, a deafening crack, and suddenly the trench caved in. The sky fell, earth swallowing him whole. Then, nothing. When he awoke, the world was quiet. Too quiet. The fog was thicker now, rolling through the trees above what had once been their trench. He coughed, spat blood, and pushed himself up. His uniform was ripped, his shoulder bleeding from shrapnel. There were no voices. No gunfire. Just silence, and the soft rustle of leaves. He reached for his satchel. Miraculously, it was still there. Inside, gauze, morphine, water, and a single flare. Not enough to save an army, but enough for one man to try. "Hello," he called weakly. "Anyone?" No answer. He was alone. A faint groan broke the silence. Mercer spun around, hand on his revolver, then froze. A figure crawled from the rubble, face caked in ash and blood. It was Corporal Hensley. "Jesus, Mercer," he coughed, limping toward him. "I thought you were done for." "Same here," Mercer said, offering a hand. "Where's the rest?" Hensley shook his head. "Gone. All of them." The words hit like another shell. Mercer stared out at the ruined forest, the shattered tree silhouetted against a dim orange sky. They were behind enemy lines. Cut off. Forgotten. "Then we move," Mercer said quietly. "East. Our lines are that way." Hensley nodded, eyes hollow. "You think anyone's still there?" Mercer didn't answer. Because the truth was, he didn't know. The forest loomed like a cathedral of ghosts. Every tree was splintered, every branch blackened by fire. What once had been green life was now only ash and silence. Mercer and Hensley moved carefully, staying low, rifles slung tight across their backs. The air had weight to it, thick, chemical, tainted by the invisible residue of war. Mercer felt it burn in his lungs with each breath. Gas, maybe. Or just the stench of death itself. "Think the Jerrys are still sweeping this area?" Hensley whispered. Mercer's eye scanned the horizon. If they're smart, yeah. They trudged forward, boots sinking into mud that never seemed to end. Somewhere in the distance, a single artillery shell burst, not close enough to fear, but close enough to remind them the war still lived. Mercer's hand brushed the pouch at his side. His supplies were pitiful, a few strips of gauze, some morphine, 2 tourniquets. He'd used the rest days ago on men who would never make it home. A medic without tools, that's what he'd become. Hensley broke the silence. "Why do you do it?" Mercer blinked. "Do what?" "Stay a medic. All that blood. All those men you can't save. Doesn't it eat you up inside?" Mercer thought for a long moment before answering. "It does. Every single one of them. But if I stop trying, then what the hell am I?" The answer seemed to hang between them, heavy and final. They walked until dusk fell, the sky turning copper, the air colder. When they finally found what was left of an old dugout, they took shelter. The wooden beams had collapsed, but the corner still stood, enough to block the wind. Hensley sat down, rubbing his hands together. "We should light a fire." Mercer shook his head. "Too risky. Smoke draws eyes." The corporal gave a tired chuckle. "Eyes are the least of our problems." Mercer didn't answer. His gaze drifted to the satchel beside him. He opened it, slowly, counting everything again. 2 morphine syrettes. Half a bandage. His last canteen. He sighed, leaning back against the dirt wall. "Think anyone's looking for us?" Hensley asked quietly. "Maybe," Mercer said. "But I wouldn't count on it." A long silence followed, broken only by the creaking trees above. Then, faintly, a sound. A cough. Mercer froze. His head snapped toward the noise. It came from beyond the dugout, down the slope of the hill. He motioned for Hensley to stay put and crawled forward, rifle ready. The coughing grew louder, wet, ragged, desperate. When Mercer reached the base of the slope, he saw them, 3 men, lying half-buried in mud and debris. Their uniforms were American. Their faces pale as wax. Mercer's heart raced. "Hensley! Over here!" He dropped to his knees beside the nearest man, rolling him gently onto his back. Sergeant Stripes. A face Mercer recognized, Doyle. Christ! Doyle! The sergeant's eyes fluttered open, glazed with pain. "Mercer, that you?" "Yeah. I've got you. You're all right." The words tasted like lies. Doyle's leg was mangled, a jagged piece of metal lodged deep in the muscle. The wound had gone gray, infection. Hensley knelt beside him. "Can you save him?" Mercer didn't answer. He tore open what was left of his kit, his fingers trembling. He poured the last of his iodine into the wound, the bitter smell rising like smoke. Doyle screamed through clenched teeth. Mercer pressed down, binding it tight with a strip torn from his own sleeve. When it was done, he sat back, chest heaving. Sweat dripped into his eyes. Hensley watched him. "You used the last of it." Mercer nodded. "He needed it." Doyle's breath rattled, uneven. "You're wasting your time. Document." Mercer smiled faintly. "I've been told that before." By dawn, the forest was nothing but grey silence. The fog hung thick and cold, blanketing the wreckage of trees and bones alike. Mercer rose stiffly, his uniform damp with dew, and looked down at Doyle. The sergeant's skin had turned a sickly yellow. His breath came in short, shallow bursts. The infection was spreading faster than Mercer had feared. Hensley crouched nearby, cleaning his rifle. "He's not gonna make it, is he?" Mercer didn't answer. He adjusted the bandage again, knowing full well it wouldn't help. "We can't just leave him," Mercer finally said. Hensley frowned. "His dead weight, document. We'll both die dragging him." "Maybe," Mercer said, his voice low. "But he's still one of ours." They fashioned a makeshift stretcher from a broken door plank and rope, and began to move. Each step sank deep into the mud. Doyle groaned softly, fading in and out of consciousness. Hours passed. The forest never seemed to end. Every now and then, Mercer swore he heard voices, faint, distant, maybe German patrols, maybe ghosts. By midday, they reached what was left of a farmhouse, burned to its skeleton. They stopped in the ruins, resting Doyle in the shade of a cracked stone wall. Hensley looked toward the horizon. If we keep heading east, we'll hit our lines. Maybe 2 miles out. Mercer nodded. Then we move again in an hour. He knelt beside Doyle, checking his pulse. It was weak, fluttering like a trapped bird. Mercer unpinned his canteen, lifting it gently to the sergeant's lips. Here. Just a little. Doyle's cracked mouth twitched into something like a smile. You always were a stubborn bastard. Mercer smirked faintly. Guess I still am. Then Doyle's eyes drifted past him, focusing on something behind. Mercer turned, heart clenching. 2 German soldiers stood among the trees. Helmets dark, rifles raised. Hensley shouted, grabbing his weapon. Gunfire erupted. The world exploded into chaos. Mercer dove for cover as bullets ripped through the wall above him. Dust and debris filled the air. Hensley fired back, each shot echoing like thunder. 1 German fell. The other ducked behind a tree, returning fire. Mercer crawled toward Doyle, shielding him. Stay down. The medic's mind raced. He had no grenades, barely any ammunition. The only thing he had left was instinct and fear. Hensley reloaded, shouting, "We can't hold them here." Mercer nodded. "Cover me." He dragged Doyle toward the farmhouse's cellar door, half collapsed but still open. A bullet grazed his shoulder, burning like fire. He didn't stop. They tumbled into the darkness below, landing hard on the dirt floor. Hensley followed a moment later, slamming the door shut above them. The gunfire ceased. Only silence remained, heavy, suffocating. Hensley panted in the dark. They'll find us. Mercer leaned against the wall, breathing hard. Then we make sure Doyle doesn't die before they do. He struck a match. The light flickered across the cellar, crates of rotted potatoes, cobwebs, old wine bottles. The smell of decay. Mercer looked at Doyle. His breathing had slowed to almost nothing. "Doc," Doyle whispered, eyes barely open. "Don't waste your life on me." Mercer swallowed hard. "You don't get to make that call." The flame died out. They sat there, wrapped in darkness and dread, listening to the faint footsteps above them, the sound of death searching for the living. For a long moment, there was nothing but the sound of dripping water and shallow breaths. Then came the creak, slow, deliberate, of boots above the cellar door. Hensley stiffened, raising his rifle toward the stairs. Mercer put a hand on it, whispering, "Don't." "They're checking," Hensley muttered. "They'll find us." "Maybe," Mercer said. "Maybe not." A faint beam of light filtered through the cracks in the floorboards. Dust drifted through the air like snow. One of the Germans spoke in hushed tones. Mercer couldn't make out the words, but the tone, sharp and commanding, sent a chill through his bones. Then, silence. Minutes passed. It could have been 10. It could have been 30. Mercer leaned close to Doyle. The sergeant's face was pale as chalk, sweat glistening on his forehead. His breathing was shallow, every exhale a ghost. Mercer's fingers brushed his wrist, faint pulse, but still there. "Stay with me," he whispered. A thud broke the quiet, heavy boots again, this time closer. The cellar door creaked. A shaft of light pierced the darkness. Hensley aimed. "Don't shoot," Mercer hissed. Hensley's jaw clenched. "We'll die sitting here." A shadow appeared in the doorway, 1 German soldier, rifle in hand. His eye scanned the cellar, adjusting to the dark. He took 1 step down. Then another. Mercer's heart hammered in his chest. He reached for a broken wine bottle beside him, gripping it tight. The soldier descended halfway before pausing. He muttered something under his breath, leaning forward to see better. Then, from outside, a voice shouted in German. "Urgent!" The soldier froze, hesitated, then turned back up the stairs. The door slammed. Mercer didn't move. Didn't breathe. Only when the footsteps faded did Hensley exhale, whispering, "Holy hell!" Mercer set down the bottle, his hands trembling. "They'll be back." "Then what?" Hensley said. "We can't drag Doyle through that field again." Mercer stared into the dark. "No. But we can wait until night." He tore a strip from his uniform, cleaning Doyle's wound again by touch. His supplies were nearly gone, just a few drops of morphine, some bandages, and whatever prayers he hadn't used up. "Tell me something," Hensley said after a while, voice low. "Why'd you sign up for this? You could have stayed back, field hospital, clean hands, real bed." Mercer smiled faintly in the dark. "My brother was infantry. Thought maybe I'd find him." "You did?" Mercer's silence was the answer. Above them, the day dragged on. German voices echoed now and then. The air grew hotter, staler. By dusk, the cellar had turned into a coffin. Mercer stood, checking the crack in the door. Orange light from fires outside painted the horizon. "It's time," he whispered. Hensley slung his rifle. "And Doyle? We carry him. Or we don't come back." They heaved the stretcher again, pushing the door open slowly. The ruined farmhouse loomed against the dying light, smoke curling from craters, shadows moving among the trees. They stepped into the open. Each sound, each crunch of mud, felt like it might be their last. And then, from somewhere far off, a flare burst in the sky, green light washing over the field like a curse. Hensley froze. "Patrols!" "Keep moving," Mercer hissed. But it was too late. A shout cut through the night. Then the whistle of bullets. The chase had begun. The air split with gunfire. Bullets snapped past Mercer's ears, kicking up dirt and ash as he stumbled forward with Doyle's stretcher. The dying man groaned, more weight than life, but Mercer refused to let go. "Hensley," he shouted. "I see them." Hensley's voice came from behind, followed by the crack of his rifle. Each shot echoed like thunder, but there were too many of them, shadows spreading across the smoke and ruin, moving fast. Mercer ducked behind the wreck of a supply cart, panting. His lungs burned. The gas mask clanked uselessly at his side, no time to put it on, no chance to breathe. "Get him under!" Hensley barked, dropping beside him, reloading with shaking hands. 2, maybe 3 coming from the left. Mercer pulled Doyle beneath the shattered wood, pressing a bandage against the wound that wouldn't stop bleeding. "Stay with me, Sergeant. You're going home, you hear?" Doyle's eyes fluttered. You still think there's a home left?" Mercer couldn't answer. The Germans were closing in, shouts growing louder. Then came the hiss. A sound both men recognized instantly. "Gas!" Hensley yelled. A shell landed 20 yards away, splitting open like a rotten egg. A greenish fog crawled low over the ground, spreading fast. The smell of chlorine hit them, a metallic, biting, unmistakable. "Mask!" Mercer barked. He pulled his own on, tightening the straps, but Doyle's was gone, lost when they'd fled the cellar. Mercer looked around frantically. Nothing. Hensley ripped his off. "Give him mine." "No." Mercer's voice was muffled through the rubber. "You won't make it." "Neither will he." Hensley shoved it into Mercer's chest. "He's got a family." "So do you." They locked eyes, the kind of look that needs no words. Mercer hesitated only a second. Then he tore off his own mask, pressed it over Doyle's face, and held it tight. The gas hit him like fire. His throat seized. His vision blurred. He felt his lungs twist as if they were filling with sand. Hensley grabbed him by the collar. "Move!" Together, coughing and half-blind, they dragged Doyle through the fog. The world had turned ghostly, the ground littered with fallen men and the distant glow of burning trenches. Mercer stumbled, fell, got up again. Every breath was agony. Every step was borrowed time. At last, they reached a ridge, shallow, cratered, but higher ground. The gas thinned there, wind tearing it apart. Mercer collapsed beside Doyle, chest heaving, eyes red. Hensley knelt beside him. "You still breathing?" Mercer managed a nod. Blood trickled from his nose. "Barely." "Good. Because we're not done yet." He scanned the horizon, through the smoke, faint lights flickered. Allied lines. Maybe half a mile. Maybe less. Mercer could hardly see straight, but he pushed himself up. "We finish this." Doyle stirred, whispering through the mask, "Leave me." "Not a chance," Mercer rasped. "You didn't come this far to die in mud." Hensley grinned grimly. "You always this stubborn, Doc." "Only when I'm breathing." They began again, step by step, three shadows crawling toward the promise of home. Behind them, the gas hung low, swallowing everything that moved. Ahead, the night opened into silence.